Hey there, everybody! Thank you so much for waiting. Looks like we got 11 of you live out there. Lord Miles is here. Give me just a moment. I've got to adjust some things on the panel here so that you guys can hear him. We had to separate the channels that the music and he were on so that I could bullshit with him until we were ready to go. Miles, say something so I can see if they can hear you. There he
Words,
is.
many words. You guys can hear me? Good stuff. I haven't been
All
silent
right.
yet.
Give me a moment. I'm gonna figure out which one of these is the right one. Oh, it is this one, but for some reason it resized us. Give me a moment. We're gonna go back to the intro. There we are.
Sorry.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here, Miles. Thank you so much for being here, man. Again, my appreciation goes out to you for making friends with such a strange internet weirdo, and then coming on multiple of my shows now. Even though we have nothing to offer you but good times.
Oh, honestly, that's all I'm looking for in life, and thank you for having me on. I do appreciate the good times.
All right. Hey, oh, the king, says Millennial Chicken. I believe he's referring to you. I mean, not yet, guys. That's part of what we're going to get into here today. Is that there are very few steps remaining until Lord Miles can ascend to the new throne and establish a new dynasty. We will be getting into that for sure.
Yeah, speaking of the good times too, I don't think we're exactly in the good times when it comes to the economy and news we're going to speak about today, right?
Hey, the good times are where you make them, right?
I'm screwed.
All right. How are the rest of you doing out there today? 16 of you, 17 of you. That is a lot for a Watcher show. You must have some of your constant followers here for you.
Wow, 17 feds and schizophrenics, amazing.
Exactly. Bring me your strongest schizo poster so that I may compare him to mine. Uh,
I wish I was schizophrenic. It does look kind of fun in some ways, but maybe not
hey,
actually.
okay, well, maybe not entirely, but it is fun some days. You at least have an excuse. Speaking of schizophrenic, though, Lord Miles,
Yeah.
let's talk about what's going on in the Tory party over there right now.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me share this screen out with everybody. Nope, not full screen layout. That's not what we wanted. This one.
Beautiful.
So we've had a couple of high profile question mark. Look, I'm not gonna lie. I know a bit about UK government, but the most that I have learned about the UK government has legitimately come recently from watching Clarkson's Farm, getting interested about all the rules and regulations that he was talking about, and then exploring myself through the web to try and understand how the parliamentary system works in order to try and thresh out like how the hell did you get here?
Yeah, no one's actually figured it out, how Parliament actually works. It's just a bureaucratic mess. I don't think anyone in the UK fully understands it or actually cares enough. But it seems like loads of people are quitting, so that's really hopeful for our economy. Yeah, it seems like nothing's in the toilet right now.
All right, yes, chat. I am turning up the volume on Miles right now. That's on my end. I had him unfortunately at the same slightly lowered volume as the synthwave. I apologize.
That's
Um,
all good.
so who is Sadiq Bhatti? Did I get that right? Saqid?
I think so,
Saqid?
yes.
Okay.
So he's a very interesting politician who's been in some controversies lately, and you can tell he's quit for a very good reason alongside all the other people in the government. And there's a lot of confusing allegations going on from both sides of the media in the UK, which are all run by the same person anyway. But the UK government is in shambles, and everything's falling apart, and it's mostly due to the COVID controversies that's happened, and that crumbling economy, and a weakening control of the world. Europe's screwed.
So let me clarify something. Let's take a step back. For those of you in the audience who are U.S. Well, what do we call ourselves for this? So if we're gonna call them limeys, I guess it's only fair that we're Yanks. So for us dumb Yanks who may have only been paying attention to what our particular state was doing, because we have had a lot going on around here. Um, Tell us about some of the excessiveness of UK's COVID totalitarianism.
Yeah, so it's similar to the US's. Thankfully, it ended quite recently, so we're all back to normal over here. But beforehand, you basically couldn't do anything. So we have universal healthcare where you pay a stupid amount in taxes towards your healthcare, and then you get a small bit back. And then it's apparently free. So when COVID first happened, they shut down all the healthcare, so no one could really go for any appointment apart from COVID, which is great, by the way. So you had people basically dying in their homes, and people not realizing it until the smell came across. So that was COVID. You couldn't go into any stores without a mask. There was no freedom whatsoever. It felt like 1776 all over again for us.
Makes sense.
You couldn't travel without a PCR test. You couldn't go on trains. London was shut down completely. So imagine not being able to go to Washington, D.C. or New York or whatever. Whilst the government as well, like Boris Johnson, was seen having parties in the government during COVID when he was enforcing all his lockdowns. So once again, the same thing with the Yanks: one rule from government and one rule for the rest of us.
No, absolutely true, and I am utterly against it. Though I have to say, it's odd to hear a member of the aristocracy speak in such terms. So for those unfamiliar, because we're going to have a whole bunch of really confused Yanks on my end that are going to be like, but wait, hold on, I'm going to do my best, a British person doing an American. But wait, isn't Boris Johnson a conservative?
Yeah, so conservatives in the UK have never conserved anything. Same with conservatives of the US, I guess. You know, as technology progresses, as Ted Kay said in Industrial Society and its Future, people may compromise every once in a while with the leftist agenda, and eventually conservatives keep compromising halfway until they actually become fully leftist. So the conservatives don't really represent anyone apart from the boomers at 65 plus nowadays. No party in power or has a potential to have power actually represents most of the people. And speaking of it too, in the UK, I think a new census data came out that said 25% of the population is non-British. So they're all new, recently foreigners. So, no one represents anyone anymore. It's just a complete downfall of that society.
Well, and it has been that incredibly quick wave that caused the reaction of Brexit for the most part, right? Like there was so much of a shock of people coming over that, amongst other things, but that seemed to have been, from an outsider's perspective, the straw that broke the camel's back that caused you guys to finally throw off the shackles of the EU. And go ahead.
We contributed a stupid amount to the EU. We got very little back. It's like how the US props up NATO for Europe. Yeah, I've got to admit, I looked at the numbers. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't really add up, does it? I mean, the UK, I've got to admit, the UK contributes a decent amount, right? You know, respect to the UK because it has a decent military. But compared to the US, it's nothing. And same with the EU. We propped up the EU. Greece fell. All these other countries never contributed pretty much anything. You know, why should we deal with it? It's a bureaucratic mess. The consequences of leaving the EU have been, I don't know, you have to pay now roughly $10 for the opportunity to go to Europe, visa free. I think it's only for 3 years. You have to pay $10 one off. That's the only consequence we've had so far. It was kind of great leaving. That means you get less immigrants, less stupid trade deals, less restrictions, less bureaucracy. What are we having a look over here?
Oh, this is just, I'm just looking to see if I could find one of those real clear charts that shows, oh, here it is. This is basically funding input to the system. And the UK, by the way, everybody remember that if the UK were an economy, it would be comparable to a mid-sized US state. So all by themselves, they're putting in quite a lot of money.
Like, I've got to admit, I'm a British nationalist. Like, I like the old Britain though. The new one's complete cringe. It used to be great with the Empire, but now it's just, it's in decline. It's in downfall, and I really wish the UK would actually hold its own like it used to. But now it's basically a US satellite state.
So when are you and Count Dankula? I mean, I think this is the real serious question: is that when are you, Count Dankula, and Sargon going to form a political party and the reformist party and
when we decide we want to commit suicide with 2 gunshots to the back of the head.
Ah, so do you have an equivalent? We call that arcanicide over here. I wonder if you guys have an equivalent up there.
I don't think so, no. But I think every time someone questions the name of it, they get shot before they actually find out.
True, although somehow
um,
the monster raving loonies have got away with it for a while. I think it's just because they present themselves in such a manner.
yeah, I think it's like a perception thing and how you actually put yourself out there. And there's been a lot of people that have been silenced. Do you remember that one guy who I don't even think he was a politician, but I think he just dressed up as a Joker and went on Omegle or something like that and just spouted off really right wing politics and eventually got put in prison for it. I think in the UK or US.
Gosh,
Um,
well, I don't know, but I did see. Let me see if I can pull this up here. I did see the poor Scottish gentleman going to prison. Now you don't have to say this, Lord Miles. Cover you. In fact, because the security forces might be ready to pound down that door behind you, you might want to earmuffs. But you guys, someone in Scotland went to jail for calling a woman thunder thighs.
oh, I've heard about that. She actually does have under fire so far.
uh so it's fairly scary over there, as we've been saying. And so are you thinking that this is a crisis of conscience for some of these, or is this just the worm turning and rats trying to find scrabble up to a better position for what they think is going to be the next little run at the power wagon?
Yeah, I honestly just think a bunch of old people saw the movement of people being more sensitive. They created laws so they can get favourable votes from those now young voters. All this diversity, liberal nonsense, and then now they've just gone into overdrive and they're just trying to shut people down. I mean, I could go on TV and like I do sometimes, and just say really controversial things and guarantee get arrested the next day. But in the US, at least you have some freedom of speech about it.
Well, for now, sort of.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's been
it's like
a
the Second Amendment. You can't own most of the guns, but well,
well, I mean that depends on where you live, right? Like there's and also like this is very interesting. We're finding out that the other side, just like most things, don't know most of what they're talking about. Now, in case you're unaware, Americans can actually own fully automatic weapons, but they have to go through an extensive background process and then pay an incredibly a tax that is very obviously set up to be a barrier to entry for the rich folks.
oh, actually, that makes perfect sense. When I read the Second Amendment, when the founding fathers wrote it down, it said you need an extensive 50% tax, and uh, you know, you need a digital background check. So if you're being a very naughty boy, you can't defend yourself, with a
Clearly,
weapon. Yeah,
clearly that I
exactly.
mean that's black and white. I mean that is what. Yeah,
Exactly.
I think that a lot of people are starting to find out, Miles, and I think that we're about the same. Is that we always used to make fun of places like China because it was the Democratic People's Republic of China, and we'd always point out that China has freedom of speech guaranteed in their constitution as well, and they do. They also have freedom of assembly guaranteed in their constitution. It's in there. It's all about
I,
norms, though,
I,
right?
I would go as far to say that China probably has the same level of democracy than the US does anyway, with how rigged your elections are.
Potentially, man. Now, So there is a factor in this that I definitely want to point out that is very similar, and I'd love to get into a discussion with this because I very rarely find someone who's willing to talk about it. But there is a very certain aspect of it that I do want to talk about. In China,
Yeah,
only people from the Communist Party can hold really any serious position of power. Like you might be able to
that's
get a lower scale job at a company, but you're not going to be able to climb the ladder unless you're a party member, because party membership helps to guarantee power because it's a uniparty system. It's not technically a uniparty system
yeah.
because there's a bunch of
It's
other,
more.
yeah, there's a bunch of subsidiary parties that all are essentially like either more communist than the official Communist Party or like varying degrees in between there.
Okay.
Um, so, in order to climb any kind of business structure, you need to be a member of the party. And that has become true over here in some ways. You need to graduate college, and if you're going to graduate college, you're going to go through an indoctrination process. And even if you don't end up becoming a liberal, which you probably will, you will still be subtly indoctrinated with various different ideas that make you a
And all this stuff.
yep. It's a pretty dangerous, deadly thing, my friend.
I knew this one guy who works at the old university I used to go to. He's quite high up, but not so high up he gets to decide things himself. But he's actually rich. He just does the job to kind of keep himself busy. You know, he's one of those lucky guys, and he's very based. But he refused to go to any diversity meeting, and he's obligated to every 6 months. So they mandated he read some books on diversity and all this nonsense. And then he actually looked into one of the books, and he had a sex scene with children inside it. Um,
Of course.
so the guys got whistleblower one day about it, but
God, they
you know,
they
just
they can't help themselves. So that's going on over there as well, is it? So look, people think that they're safe. People look at this liberal insanity and they think that they're safe. But here's the thing, guys: the hive mind is formed largely in what's called education schools. These are schools that teach people to educate. And guess what? Those are largely based on international programs.
I don't know. When I went to university, there was so much nonsense going on. You could be shut down for protesting the wrong thing and so on. I kept my head down and just did my physics degree. But as soon as I found out you could do this one online degree, this is the one good thing about the UK. We have a level system where a degree is equal to a level 6, and you can do a level 6 online, which is 100% equal to a degree. So if you put on your CV, you can't discriminate. And I found out you could do a level 6 in banking and finance, which is what I wanted to go into at the time. It was roughly $1,000. It would only take 6 months. And there were no in-person exams. It was all coursework based. And when I actually did it, I just never did any of the material. When the coursework came, I just Googled all the answers and I got the like one of the top grades. And then within half a year, I had a degree instead of doing 4 years. You know, it was nonsense. So
I love it. I love it. That's fantastic. So let's talk about that. Let's put that background in finance googling to work, shall we? Um,
Molly's early life section.
so can you tell us part of like where is the UK economy at right now? What are the driving forces behind it, and where do you think like the UK economy specifically is headed? And if you have any prescriptions of who knows, maybe one of these guys will end up listening to a random ass Americans podcast, and we'll claim it's his idea and run with it and save your country.
So true. So right now taxes have gone superly high. I went to buy some food today, just very basic essentials. I don't go to any fancy places. I went to basically one of the cheapest stores you can go to in the UK, the equivalent of a Dollar General or Walmart maybe. And I usually spend around the equivalent of $30. And this time it cost me about $55 just for the same stuff. And I was amazed by it. It was absolutely insane. Just courses taken over the last few weeks or months, the prices have increased dramatically. Most people are completely pessimistic because they can't afford the normal standard of living. I mean, imagine you at home, the people watching this right now, you're working harder than your grandfathers ever worked. You know, you're working 10 hours behind a desk, so you're not even exercising, working outside, in construction or whatever. And then you can afford a house in 40 years time, and then retire on a poverty wage, and then suddenly all your savings will fall apart because the banks won't be able to hold up. Interest rates are going almost negative and won't kind of keep up with inflation. So whatever money you do save is actually just being lost to the banks so they can pay off loans that they can't pay back in the first place. Everyone's clearly pessimistic. They can't have a happy life. Everyone's in debt apparently. I know some people who graduated their physics degrees, real clever people, and they're struggling to pay rent in just normal cities in the UK. It's the same if you live in New York and California. Everyone's heard the stories,
Well,
and it was never like this in history. So
To be
I don't
honest,
understand why.
it's becoming like that everywhere. There's a couple of other forces in our economy that are. You've probably heard the classic thing about BlackRock, and I've had people try and talk to me about how BlackRock is not actually affecting home prices by coming into cities in the Midwest using government-backed 0% interest funds in order to offer 20% or 120% cash on the spot for houses above market value in order to turn them into long-term rentals. Um, but no, that's sorry guys. That's
Yeah, you'll own nothing and be happy. You know, you're renting your apartment, you're renting your car, your clothes, everything. It's ridiculous. You know, there used to be a time in the 70s where I wasn't personally alive, of course, but there was a time where you could pay off a home with, I think, 2 times your salary yearly. So you could have a nice three-bedroom new build in the suburbs
well, hell,
for,
my
yeah, but
parents worked their way through college without any kind of loans or what scholarships. Uh, like both of them independently worked part-time jobs that paid for not only their tuition but everything else as well while they were going to school. I mean,
I had two part-time jobs when studying university. One was, I think it was like 24 hours at a phone store, retail, which kind of killed me morally. And then I did clinical trials, basically where I get injected with random stuff every few months for a ton of money. And when I was doing all that, I realized even with the money I was bringing in, I was not earning enough to just pay off a university that I'm studying. And the thing is, we pay so much money for subsidized university in the UK that it's almost as bad as the US, really. I think you guys pay like $30,000 per semester or something.
oh,
But
I would assume that that is actually on the lower end. Like that is probably like at a state college of in-state tuition. Um, let's see. The liberal arts college that I got a scholarship to before I joined the Marine Corps was $67,000 a semester, and that was like a very mid-rate liberal arts college.
if you don't want me asking, I'm guessing you haven't paid that back fully yet.
Oh no, I didn't go. I joined the Marine Corps instead.
Oh,
I got offered the scholarship, and then I turned down the see. It was so I got offered a 1 year scholarship as a resident artist scholarship, and then I turned it down in order to join the Marine Corps. And then when I was in the Marine Corps, I ended up getting the equivalent credits wise of an associate's degree in electronic engineering. But
perfect.
I've never applied it to get a degree because I don't care to.
Yeah, exactly. At this point, I'm realizing, wow, a degree really does not matter. Um, I know some people that are going to study psychology or history or some really useless subjects.
No, in fact,
And then,
psychology is
yeah,
even worse. Like
oh
psychology is
yeah,
what I tried to study after I got out, and I was thinking about using my GI Bill. But like, have you looked at the reproducibility study with
yeah.
psychology? Jesus Christ!
It's pseudoscience. I knew one guy who went down he wanted to be Jordan Peterson, basically. He watched like a few years of his lectures and went, oh, bro, I'm going to be the next Jordan Peterson. I'm just going to sign up right now. And he turned up and turned out he surveyed his class of 40 female students. Um, and he said about 38 of them admitted to him they had some sort of mental disorder. So it's like, I don't know, I wouldn't trust a psychologist who has issues themselves, you know? It's like saying an electrician who hasn't wired up his house yet. Stupid.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's for sure. So let me ask you: have you guys seen any rioting this year, or was it just all the BLM King Floyd stuff that happened? What was it, 2020 and 2021?
Yeah, so we had some George Floyd stuff. We had some eco-terrorism, so you had some people lying down in the streets. I personally had one guy outside McDonald's. Sorry, not one guy, one group of people. I think some vegan extremist people where they hold up laptops and show videos of animals being slaughtered and wear masks to hide their faces. So every time I see that in the town in where I live, I'm doxing myself all the time, by the way. So if you want to check my Twitter and or actually come up to my front door, you can. I'll go and show you the protests. I would just automatically walk into a McDonald's and just start eating a burger in front of them, just because I hate these people so much. I just want to piss them off because it's fun, honestly.
Well, have
Um,
you? Well, in that case, have you? Did you see what happened at the hot dog eating contest very recently?
no, do tell.
Hold on, I'll pull up a video. You keep talking, and I'm gonna get this pulled up.
Good stuff. We had some people lying down as well, in the middle of the streets, and apparently they were shocked when someone got run over. There's apparently protests that go on in central London. So all the people that are paying, stupid amounts of rent and living in a small box home in central London, are getting stopped from going to their, high-paying but high-expense job, which is just breaking people really.
Boy,
It's just white.
so it might not be as much of an issue for you guys as it's going to be over here, but what the council and I are definitely tracking. Well, hold on, let's watch this first because this is priceless. So this is the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. It happens every 4th of July. It's pretty famous, and what you're about to see are some protesters trying to storm it. And this, a famous contestant who I believe has won a couple of years in a row, putting a stop to that shit.
Honestly.
It was fantastic. So what he's trying to expose here, I looked into this by the way. A couple of activists in Utah tried to steal a farmer's pigs, and they're now being put on trial for it. They called it a rescue. It's just livestock theft.
Yeah, honestly, those animals, just pigs and sometimes chickens on independent farms, they're very good lifestyles. Like, I've done some research because I want to go down this lifestyle when I'm older. Um, pigs are very happy on small enclosures of land with very small amenities. Same with chickens as well. You don't need nearly as much land as you do,
So
and every single vegan thinks it's some sort of battery farming complex, and there's some savior. Do you have the savior complex going on?
I have to ask, have you
Yeah.
seen Clarkson's farm? And did this encourage your decision to want to own a farm in your old age?
No, I learned. I didn't see that, but what motivated me was I went down the fitness pill and went and saw all the soy content, the microplastics, and the anti-meat stuff, and I just know they're gonna push that stuff within 5, 10 years, and I just need to ensure that my children don't, get antidepressants, soy, microplastic meals, and all this stuff for dinner.
Love it.
I actually want to secure my own little ecosystem, if that makes sense. I don't want to be reliant on other people as much as I can be.
Whew, hold on just a second. Oh boy. Hey, chat, I'm going to put this up before it disappears because
Sick.
this kind of shit disappears. One of the shooters we're going to talk about later, the videos about him keep disappearing everywhere. Oh, you terrible. Okay, it just got suspended, but I still have it open on my other screen.
Oh, beautiful. Okay.
This is a GIF that appears to be uh the shooter. He's been posting a bunch of videos. I don't know how they would have put this together. Prior to this, what's this?
Lol. Actually, do you know how many casualties the shooter inflicted?
7. So there were 7. Sorry, 6. 6 so far. Although there are several people still in critical condition, so that number could go up. They did. They captured him alive. And before we, I don't expect any of my chat to be this way. But before I get any comments that are like, but they didn't shoot him 60 times like the other kid who spun around really quickly and had been firing at police previously. Yes, I know. That's because this guy gave himself up willingly because he wants to be put on trial. It's
exactly.
different MO.
Yeah, they're trying to push a narrative that, oh, white kid, blah blah blah. Yeah,
Yep.
blah. These shooters as well. That's the issue with the US. They become celebrities, and then these, terminally online autistic kids, who have like a hard time in life or whatever, envy this glory, and they kind of, they kind of fetishize the idea of shooting up a place. I really think after a shooter shoots up a place, it should be law that they're stripped naked and then people just laugh at them for hours or just throw eggs at them or something. Something like that, if you get what I mean.
Yeah,
I
no,
think
no.
that would stop all copycats. Yeah.
I get you, but I'll tell you what I think would already stop it. Look, it's not like there weren't grievance issues like this in the previous era. The difference is the media did not cover these things sensationally as they do now. There's been a lot of studies that get done that it is literally the way in which the media covers it. Like they cover the body count like it's a high score. They like I know people say that a lot of time, but it's literally gamification of this stuff, or at least that is the way that these sick individuals are interpreting it.
Oh, yeah.
There is a significantly higher chance of follow-on repeat attacks happening within 13 days of that, and it's been shown that that's caused by the media cycle of coverage. Like, it's if I've said it before and I'll say it again, Michael Mellis has this right. Corporate media are the enemy of the people, flat out. If you shut down corporate media tomorrow, so many of the weird schizoid odd problems that our society seems to be going through would self-resolve within a couple months.
Yeah.
It's not going to
I really
happen,
think,
but
I personally know that big media is the issue of most things in the country, most issues in the country. I really think if you shut down the media, restricted banks, and the government as well, their power somehow anyway, I think the US would just be on a good track for a positive future, but never gonna happen.
Derna says, "How much drugs you got to be on to take 60 bullets, though?" It's not
I
so
mean,
much the amount; it's the type. I'll just leave
yeah,
that there. um, all right. They didn't shoot him 60 times. You're correct. You're correct. But that's the narrative. In fact, I've heard as many as 90. And then, in fact, I've heard people say if it's 90 shots and there's X number of shooters, wouldn't one of them have to have reloaded? And actually, if you look at it, that's significantly under what 8 officers would have had. But none of that matters, chat. None of that matters because we've already covered that one. I believe we've even gone over the body cam footage for that one. We're
I think
going
if
to
you get shot, I think if you get shot 90 times, you lose a limb or your body gets cut in half automatically.
Well, I mean, it depends, man. I mean, how much shooting experience do you have? Any?
A little bit, but not as much as the American,
So,
unfortunately.
so,
I wish
so,
we
do
had
you know what
good
a
right
22
example.
is?
Yeah, yeah.
So, like, if you compare a 22 caliber, like in fact, the police. Let me see if I can find it. The police used to have a 22 caliber submachine gun that they would use.
Oh, beautiful.
I think it was called the Swarm of, like, they nicknamed it the Swarm of Bees or something. There it is. Yeah, it looks like a
Oh,
Thompson.
so cool.
Okay. One of those, I mean, you could probably take a couple hundred rounds from that and not have any serious physical deformation like you're talking about. But
I'll take
you
the challenge.
yeah, I was gonna say you take one round from a 12 gauge slug, and it's a different story.
Yeah, I've seen the live leaks, my
Ah,
early childhood.
our formative years, ha, childhood.
Unrestricted access to the internet. I'm sure it's maybe a very positive individual.
Ah, I'm sure. And I'm sure it's gonna come back too. So let me ask you another thing. Do you foresee, like in the U.S. and the council and I've been talking about this for a while, there's going to be food shortages around the world and they're caused by a lot of stuff. Like for instance, in the U.K., I'm seeing that you guys are about to have another urea shortage, which is going to cause the diesel fluids. Uh, your trucks aren't going to be able to move. And for a country, I
Yeah,
think you guys import what 30% of the food you guys eat.
I think probably a little bit higher too.
That's going to be a big issue. So what do you see going down domestically, and how soon do you think that might happen?
Well, I think it's going to happen within the next few months, or at the very least, because there's always that delay in the manufacturing process, isn't there, and exporting and all that nonsense. So I think prices are going to increase dramatically, and people that are just barely scraping by are going to realize that they're shafted, especially people with families. And imagine you can't feed your kids, you're going to be very pissed off. Um, I think we're going to have the government as well. We're going to have more people quit and it's going to be a tough time. I've got to admit, some people in the UK do need to lose the weight, so I think it'll have a positive impact on them. But
I hate to say that. Look, I get it that there are some people right now who are already on the fringes that are already like not doing well. But in American society, there's this very interesting thing that happened where processed sugar and refined foods like that became a lot cheaper than better foods, and so poor people tend to be the ones who have a whole bunch of empty calories hanging around their frame, if you know what I mean.
oh
Um,
yeah,
Although that's not always true. Again, there are some people who are legit starving, that just can't get access to any of it. And to those of you, my heart utterly goes out. When my restaurant opens back up again, when it was open previously, I had a policy that if you did not have the money to pay for a pizza, you were getting a cheese one for free. And that will continue to operate just because I do not want to see people go hungry. But um, at the same time, I agree that if we all, when Venezuela, when they lost about 20 pounds within a year after Maduro took over, they all called it the Maduro 15. And I'm just saying that if we all took a Biden 15 or a Biden 20, it might do the nation a little good.
yeah. Honestly, fitness it would take a lot of stress off the American healthcare system and so on. But at the same time, people will be screwed over. Just everyday people who are fit and everything. Meat's going to become expensive too. That's the big issue of globalization. All meat is imported, and they already have everything in factory farms at the moment and battery farms just keep costs down. So I think people are going to turn from meat, go heavily into grain if they can find any grain, because Russia and Ukraine are the breadbasket of the world to some degree. It's going to be screwed. And then America's going to export less because they realize, hey, wait, we can't produce much food anymore. So we're going to be a bit protective. We got to feed our country first. And Europe, that's been reliant on the outside forces for many years, is going to be a little bit screwed. I mean, the UK, you can't grow anything here. We've got very little farmland, big population, small country. Shafted.
Give me just a second, Miles. Do you want to just address the chat? I need to take a 10-second break and just go wrangle a couple of little watchers because it sounds like they might be attempting violence on each other.
That's okay. Oh, the chat's just loading. Good stuff. Let's see. Yeah, it's not gonna load for me. But good to have you guys as well. Good to be here. So the economy is so bad because I'm the UK's top economist. I can't even afford real brick in my house. I mean, you see this wall behind me? You see how nice this wall is? It's
Oh, is that fake raw brick? I've always been a fan of raw
yeah.
brick walls,
So
but
I
that's
didn't do it. I didn't do a house tour because guys, you guys know me. I travel too much, so I didn't do a house tour because I didn't have time before my next trip. So I just signed up for the house, thinking, wow, that brick looks really nice. It just turns out it's wallpaper. Um, you know, it's not even hard to have a brick wall. You just don't put plaster on it, don't paint it. They decided, oh, we got brick right here. We're gonna cover it up, paint it, and then add a brick wallpaper. It's retarded.
the only assumption I can make is that someone with slightly more taste took over after the original builder plastered everything over.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. I just want to I just want to live in an authentic piece of architecture. That's the one thing as well. You guys will know if you ever come to the UK. The architecture here is abysmal. I mean, you think the American new builds, the new houses, and the suburbs are terrible. UK ones are on a different level. Trust me.
So if I ever came to the UK, I would have no interest in coming to the cities. Legitimately, the only place my Mrs. Watcher and I were talking about this the other day. We had never had an interest in visiting the UK. We kind of had an interest in like maybe Scotland, but I stopped drinking scotch, and so that became like a, well, that would be a bad idea. And then Ireland, just because Mrs. Watcher's distant family does come from Ireland, and so she is a little bit interested in seeing that. Until Clarkson set up a farm shop that you can now come and visit, and we're both huge Top Gear fans. Old Top Gear, the new Top Gear's atrocious. God. But we're both old Top Gear fans. We both love Clarkson, and we've watched him do a farm and set up a little farm shop, we've both been like, you know what? I would legitimately go to the UK to go to the Cotswolds and just like spend a weekend in a caravan and hang out.
That's honestly I do recommend. I think Top Gear is our national icon at this point. That's all we've got left, and you know, it's screwed the new one. So if you do come, just visit the old small towns. I recommend places like Bewdley, some places in Edinburgh, maybe definitely not London. Actually, I think that's it. I think there's nothing else in the UK I
Well,
know of.
I hear Edinburgh is nice, and partially just because I'm a weirdo and I'd actually like want to see at least the entry level to the catacombs, just because I hear all that architecture's like insane.
I guess, yeah, but at the same time, you can get catacombs in Ukraine as well.
Very true.
Um,
So I'm not going there right now.
I want to go back. I'm kind of
God,
missing it a
in
little.
case anybody's not clear what he said, I brought this up in the early stages of the war, but not Melitopol. What's the one that's still currently under Ukrainian occupation? It's really their only city. Odessa. Odessa has
I think
the
so.
largest series of underground catacombs of any European city. It is it's utterly insane. There's over 300 miles of tunnel networks that are partially uncovered and partially unexplored. So just an insane amount of caving space down there.
I just want to, I want to go underneath and just go on Uber Eats or DoorDash or something and just give them instruction on how to get to
Turn it into a Mr. Beast style game where the first one to get there gets an Afghani war rug.
it. It's like wagey, you get a 5% tip.
Oh, Bob. Okay, so there. So I'm hearing from the chat that I should also visit York, and that's probably a
Well,
good
actually,
thing.
I've never been to York personally, but I've heard good things about York. Um, there's some places you just don't go in England to. Some areas in Birmingham are just no-go zones.
Oh, are
Um,
there legit no-go zones in the UK now?
I would say so. I would personally say so. Like, I wouldn't go there because there's some areas in the UK where I can seriously walk for about 5 miles there and not see a single white person.
You know, there are legitimate no-go zones in the U.S. as well. Although there have been, I will admit this, guys. Like we say this as though it's like a unique thing. There have been odd no-go zones in the U.S. for an incredibly long time, and I bet most countries have these. There are places in the South where if you were not born within a 5 mile radius of that area, you don't go there, and you very likely will get shot at. Doesn't
Wait,
matter what your
really?
skin color is. Doesn't matter anything like that. They're just an incredibly insular people, and there's no cops in the area. There's no anything like that. You leave them alone. Uh,
Kind of based actually. Imagine getting lost and just go, oh hi, howdy, and then just
exactly,
walking.
dude. Like, oops. Uh, no, you'd have to kind of intentionally get lost in that area, in the types of areas that I'm talking about.
Oh,
Um,
don't motivate me. I might give it a go.
you might, brother. I'm telling you, there's if you ever make your way out here, I've got some interesting places in the Southwest you'd want to see. There are some interesting enclaves of culture that happen in the Southwest that are. We'll talk privately afterwards at some point.
Okay.
I'm just gonna bring up my thread that's got some of the stuff that's gone on over the weekend that we wanna do. Well, just a real quick update to anybody who's following me that hasn't already seen. As you guys know, Stocking Mill Coffee is a veteran-run coffee company that we absolutely love. We're not officially sponsored by them yet. Stand by. But anyways, they are continuously being persecuted off of Twitter, and this is wink, nod, not them, but you should definitely go follow this Battle Flamingo account that might have some interesting takes you'd enjoy if you also enjoy Wig Splitter or Swamp Fox or Midnight Run or any of the wonderful things that Stocking Mill produces. Just to be clear. All right, so now we're gonna move into the news segment, guys. There were multiple shootings over the weekend. Oh, by the way, Lord Miles, you can dip out for this, or you can stay and comment on all of the insanity going on all over the world. It is entirely up to you.
Well,
Um,
I want to keep up to date with this stuff. I'm gonna have a good listen.
all right, perfect. So we've got. Oh God, where is that thread? Hold on, I scrolled past it. I'm sorry, guys. I tried to get my shit together and wound up causing the opposite to happen. So,
Story of my life.
so first of all, we've got BG on the scene. For those of you who don't remember BG, he started out as a leftist who decided he wanted to cover the 2020 protests, and after getting the absolute shit stomped out of him by Antifa a couple of times for pointing his camera in a direction they didn't want him to, has slowly morphed into a conservative. It's been a wonderful thing to see. This is Akron, where that but he shot him 60 times shooting happened. These, as you can see, businesses and apartments and all kinds of other buildings around the downtown area have been forced to board up, and it looks like they've been boarded up for several days and aren't stopping. I don't blame them, although Antifa is yet to be able to marshal the number of street goons they usually need to cover up for the violence that they get into. You never know when that's going to incite. Any comment on that, Lord Miles? To me, it seems like it's all about if they're able to turn BLM onto that. BLM seems to be the on-off riot faucet.
Have you noticed BLM starts rioting as soon as the midterms of the US elections start happening, or when the actual elections start happening? I feel like it's government run, how they place bricks outside during protests and everything.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
I've never been shy about my theory that that both Antifa and BLM, to some degree, are either fully infiltrated and run by the government, or they're led around by the nose by various different what do you call those, non-governmental organizations, and are owned by the government that way. It's pretty obvious.
I see. I wish we lived in like a really cool dystopia where we went to war and did conflicts over really cool things. But no, nowadays it's just really gay. I don't know. I feel like Antifa are full of carrots. I've never seen anyone in Antifa who has genuine muscles. Anyone who's actually ripped. It's always some lanky dude.
Well,
Or some
so
really fat dude, yeah.
so there are a couple of them. Like you're right. They definitely do tend to attract the Y rate types. But if I've got to be honest, like they do have a couple of dudes who are actual operators. I don't know if you know this, but they've actually embedded with multiple people. Like there is an Antifa unit over there with Ukraine right now. Antifa's been deployed in Syria and Turkmenistan and a couple of other places like that with several different freedom fighter groups. And then the people who survive that come back and give the trained experience they have to Antifa in organized sort of cell chapter meetings where they'll invite these experts they'll pay for them to travel the country and do little educational things. They do shootouts, they do all kinds of stuff where they're up in their skills, man. They know that they're idiots that could easily get smoked. But what I want to comment on real quick is how hilarious it is that the elitists, like the literal top business minds, found a way to use communists to smash small business owners that compete against them. It is utterly, in the name of communism. It's hilarious to me. It's meme worthy. So that's what we're seeing here, is that in Portland they just smashed up a bunch of buildings, just a bunch of small businesses, and ransacked them and burned U.S. flags, for the 4th.
Do you remember in 2008 when everyone was protesting the big banks? And then, they're protesting Morgan Stanley, I don't know, Goldman Sachs, and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And then 4 years later, as the kind of leftist movement took off, now they're protesting big, small businesses. And then they're sponsored by the big banks that do the same thing, really. Like pride parades, Antifa rallies, and so on. It's like,
and in fact,
yeah,
do you know how that fell apart? Do you know what ultimately broke apart the Occupy Wall Street movement?
No.
You see, at first everybody was all kind of together, and it was dumb, but it was at least everybody all together, right? And everybody could voice whatever they wanted to voice and all that kind of stuff. And then after it looked like it would become a threat, suddenly these people started appearing that weren't there in the initial organization, but they were all people of color demanding that you listen to these people of color, and that all of these sections that like were in charge of how the movement was going to go down and how it was going to be organized, that they all needed to be sectioned off into different racial groups, like so that like there'd be a white representative and there'd be a black representative and there'd be a Latino a Latinx representative,
A Chinese, a Chinkex
There you go.
Chinks.
There you go. Yep. So they would basically what it was is these business letters said, "Hey, we're screwed. Quick, unleash the identity politics."
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Hit the people against one another and don't focus on the larger enemy that's going on. It's clever. I've got to respect it in some ways, but people keep falling for it a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's true. Hey, Derna says criminals are the terror arm of the state. Yeah, I wouldn't know. I mean, I'm not being a student of history or anything, Miles, but I don't know. It seems awful familiar. Weren't there a whole bunch of other communists that emptied the prisons onto the streets in a specific manner in order to cause chaos? It seems like that's just a pattern that might just be repeating. Just odd.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, do you remember when Weimar Germany was around? Well, you don't remember, you know the history
Oh yeah.
and how they pushed leftist ideals so much that other groups manifested that did horrible things in return, as kind of a pushback. Yeah, I kind of see that happening nowadays anyway. High interest rates, huge economic pressures, certain groups taking power, abusing the general population. Oof.
Nope, it's very true. It's well, I'll tell you what, Miles. Did you ever see the American classic movie RoboCop?
Yes, love this.
Do you remember how RoboCop begins?
Oh, wasn't it a corrupt it was a corrupt company and government on top of it, wasn't it?
Well, it was companies that had taken over local governments in order to allow bad policies to happen that would cause crime to rise, so that it would force all of these small business owners and individuals and smaller companies who own stakes in the inner cities to leave because they couldn't handle all the rioting and damage that was happening to them, so that they could then snap up those inner city properties and just really desirable properties at a steep five-finger discount.
Hmm. I need to start. I need to steal these ideas. I wouldn't mind. I would like some money right now.
So I'm just going to keep pointing some of this just in the background as we're talking. This is also Portland. Just an idea of the size that gathered outside of one of the churches there in order to graffiti it. This Catholic church up there. They were graffitiing it and smashing windows. This was also where they decided to burn their American flag. Yay! Look, I'm not going to lie. This is one area where I differ from a lot of people. If you're dumb enough to spend money on a flag and then burn it, that was your flag.
To be fair, in my latest video, I'm burning the EU flag on the on the border. So I just realised
EU flag is a little more understandable, to be honest. But if you're going to get your own country's flag and burn it, I mean, it was your flag, so what am I going to really complain about? You know what I mean?
if you really want to get rid of your country, you become stateless by burning your passport and declaring that you're no longer a resident of the nation.
And signing up to go with Lord Miles to go colonize Beer to Wheel, right?
Yeah. If anyone wants to come to Beer to Wheel or Afghanistan, you can come there and not become American. I'm sure you can talk politics with the locals, and you'll really get on with them.
By the way, the locals of Beer to Wheel, very political. All of the microscopic organisms and not much else.
There are some people on the way there that mine gold, and it's just a bunch of poor Egyptians or people that reside in I think they're from Chad and also Sudan. They've basically never seen an outsider, and they'll just capture you and kidnap you on sight, because they just don't want the government finding out about their gold mining operations.
Well, there we go. All we got to do is show up with enough force that we tell them they work for us now.
Yeah, exactly. just do an American and just say, oh, you have weapons of mass destruction and no democracy and so on.
Very true. Or that you live, like, I don't know if you're aware of this, but they've because of various different acts that have been established, if you're within 50 miles of the border, you don't technically have any constitutional rights.
Wait, really?
Really, really.
Is there a story behind that, or?
Because of border, it's a border enforcement measure, man. That's like the distance they declare. By the way, I just want to bring up what's going on here. So after they smashed out a bunch of these windows, they tossed fireworks of various sizes in. So attempted arson, just kind of it's a staple.
That's so wholesome, As you know, churches, the Catholic Church, not the biggest charitable institution in human history. It's terrible, you know. I don't understand these mass shooters and these protesters. I mean, why do they blow up or damage small businesses and churches and not, you know, George Soros's house or something? I don't understand this. It's just, you know, if you gotta go down some way, why don't you go down big?
Well, I mean, as long as if we're going to talk about that, man, there's been holy shit, have there been a lot of church burnings? If you guys want more on that, go look at S2 Underground. He did a fantastic video where he analyzed each and every one of them, and some of them, I mean, guys, it's the summer, and some of these churches are old, so like depending on where the fire starts, it might legitimately just be like an attic fire that was caused by an older electrical system, but some of them are very obviously arson attacks, and we're talking about like 20, 30 churches in the last 5 or 6 days. It's pretty insane. I was just reading this real quick. I thought this was hilarious. So that video that we saw of them stomping on someone's windshield, apparently Antifa got in a bunch of trouble internally because the chick that they did this to has over 1 million followers, and so she shared it a whole bunch and made him look like shit, and so now they're trying to offer an official apology to the driver.
Well, the apology means nothing. Give them, I don't know, financial compensation in a big way. But all these people, all the Antifa people, are unemployed, so not gonna happen.
Hey man, Soros bucks. That's where they get it.
Oh, so true. Yeah, I wish I could be funded by the CIA or some shady, yeah, billionaires.
So there was Portland. There was obviously you guys probably saw my one live in Akron. I had to pull that down because we've got to edit some stuff out of that before I can pop it back up. It will go back live, but we watched Akron live all night the 3rd. Let me go down my tweet thread here just a little bit because we've got another one. So we had another shooting in Philly this time. Let me find the good video on that one we'll just watch BG's scene again while I find that.
It's always Philadelphia.
Oh no, Philly's getting really hot and really bad.
Yeah.
So, and this is one of the things I was saying, guys, if you remember in my previous stream before the weekend started, that anytime that you've got a situation where you've got heightened tensions in the U.S. and an excuse to have legal explosions going off that sound fairly similar to fireworks, stand by for people to use that for cover of bad things. And that's exactly what we saw here in Philadelphia. There appeared to be a large group of people gathered setting off fireworks, and it appears that somebody ambushed some cops in the middle of that. I am just trying to find that damn video. Here we go. This was at Benjamin Franklin Parkway. And nobody gets gunned down. I think this is just crowd running away. I'm going to turn the sound way down because it's super loud. There's actually 2 to this. I've also got what looks like somebody from a high-rise building taking images of the same kind of scene. But look, guys, and remember that I keep saying that this is gonna get worse as food gets more expensive and as inflation gets more expensive. There is a point at which, like, guys, U.S. cities are unique in a way that we are spread out, and that you have people who will live in the suburbs of a large city that live an hour and a half to a 2-hour drive from that place. And they will spend X amount on gas to get in, right? With gas now creeping up, especially in the larger cities, to $6 and $7, around $7.50, $8 is the point at which they're not going to be able to profitably come into work anymore. So we are very shortly, potentially about to see some things get really stupid. So this is our aerial view. Looks like this is from an apartment.
So awesome.
Whoever that is has a nice view from their apartment, to be honest. So it looks like, as far as the reports that I've seen, the shooting happened somewhere in this area. Oh! Lord Miles' highly advanced technical setup. It's got a transform function that we accidentally triggered by voice command.
Good stuff. See, inflation's so bad. I don't even own a desk anymore or a chair. I'm just sitting on the floor. Yeah, so
Oh, you know what? I feel really stupid.
No, I remember. So I know you weren't going to do a Joe Mama joke or something.
Yeah, well, Joe might even come join us depending on how he's feeling. Joe, if you're out there and you can hear me, the link is the same link from yesterday. I'm lazy and I just used the same channel because it was background here in the middle of downtown. Here's the deal. This is not my first Twitter account. My previous Twitter account was dedicated almost solely to doing Riot Watch during the 2020s, recording the very worst of the leftist actions and then tying them to their actions as individuals. And then reporting those to the FBI, because at the time I thought maybe there might be somebody, just even a single individual at the FBI, who would take that and act on it. And
They're funded by them. Yeah.
Well, sure, but how do I put it? Even revolutionaries, right? When they went to do it, they still, for years, I think for 7 or 8 years, pursued trying to make change within the British system, because they viewed it as, even though they're never going to allow us to have this sovereignty, if we don't try and do it the right way first, we won't be able to claim justification when we do it anyway.
Yeah, that's like me when I want to talk to a woman and then I end up saying, well, I tried to do it the right way, and then I just kidnap them and take them to my basement. You know? Same company.
Miles, someone was asking me the other day, we might be live again. I'm gonna check real quick. Yeah, we're live. Someone was asking me the other day, Miles, why it's canceled Wednesday, that I'll reach out to, and they should be able to track down whether that's what's going on or whether I need to go bitch at my ISP. So I've got that list here pulled up.
Glad to see these great people leave. Yeah, I'm sure they contribute a lot towards society, and everyone really likes them to go down history in a positive light.
Well, I'm assuming, honestly, the analysis that I've seen people go through on this is that essentially it looked. Anyways, do you think it's gone that far with your prime minister then? All these lurid parties he was having at the height of COVID and such.
I'm not too sure, to be honest, because it's kind of based where you enforce one thing on others and then do the other thing yourself.
Guys, just on a downward trajectory from which there is no current pullout.
I really don't have hope with the UK, but it's going to become a former glory that it used to have. It's never going to become a superpower. It's never going to really have a huge from it. I think I just got.
But you should be able to hear me now. I'm going to end the current stream. I'm going to drop the new stream in the chat below. I think that might be part of the issue, is that we're trying to reconnect to this old stream.